Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India NewsNight, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next hour. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken meets Tayyip Erdogan in Ankara as forces backed by U.S.-Turkey clash in Syria. A day ahead, a parliamentary vote over Yoon's martial law. Voices to impeach Yoon growing stronger. Opposition leader says impeaching Yoon the best way to restore order. Aiming to boost infrastructure in North Indian city of Prayagraj, Prime Minister Modi to inaugurate developmental projects, also to review preparations for upcoming Mahakumbh Mela. Grateful nation remembers the martyrs on the 23rd anniversary of terrorist attack on Parliament. An Indian hockey team thrashes Thailand in Muscat, reaches semi-finals of Women's Junior Asia Cup. And on to the top story this hour. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Turkey for talks focused on establishing stability in Syria after clashes between forces backed by the U.S. and Turkey erupted in the north. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Turkey for talks focused on establishing stability in Syria. Blinken met Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan at Ankara's Esenboga airport after visiting Jordan on his first trip to the region since Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's government was ousted on Sunday. Erdogan and Blinken discussed the latest developments in Syria, with Erdogan calling on the international community to work together for the reconstruction of institutions in Syria. Erdogan also told Blinken that Turkey would take preventive measures in Syria for its national security against all organizations it deems as terrorist. The G7 leaders will meet virtually on Friday to discuss the momentous changes underway in Syria, where the interim government has vowed to institute the rule of law after years of abuses under ousted President Bashar al-Assad. Leaders of the Group of 7 Democratic Powers said they were ready to support the transition to an inclusive and non-sectarian government in Syria. They called for the protection of human rights, including those of women and minorities, while emphasizing the importance of holding the Assad regime accountable for its crimes. The country's constitution and parliament would be suspended during a 3-month transition period. After the fall of Assad's government, Syrians flocked to the infamous prisons where the Assad regime is estimated to have held tens of thousands of detainees. Meanwhile, Blinken said that the United States is working to bring home an American citizen, Travis Timmerman, who was freed from prison earlier in the week. The Syrian leadership said it was ready to cooperate with Washington to look for U.S. citizens disappeared under Assad, including on an ongoing search for U.S. journalist Austin Tice, who was abducted in 2012.
In terms of an American citizen who was found just today, I can't give you any details on exactly what's going to happen, except to say that we're working to bring him home, to bring him out of Syria and to bring him home. But for privacy reasons, I can't share any more detail than that at this moment.
Jordan also announced it will host a Syria crisis summit on Saturday that will include foreign ministers from numerous Western and Arab nations as well as Turkey. Bureau Report, DD India. Well, Russia has established a direct contact with the political committee of Syria's Islamist rebel group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Mikhail Bogdanov has said on Thursday. Bogdanov said Russia hoped to maintain its 2 bases in Syria, a naval base in Tartus and the Kamimim air base near the port city of Latakia, to keep up efforts against international terrorism. The Russian diplomat added that Moscow has established contacts with the political committee of Syria's Hayat Tahrir al-Sham group and discussed issues of ensuring the security of the Russian diplomatic mission and citizens in the country. Russia hoped the group would fulfill its pledges to guard against all excesses, maintain order and ensure the safety of diplomats and other foreigners, he added. And with a view to establish order in newly liberated Syria, Jordan is going to organize a Syrian crisis summit over the weekend. The summit will have participation of foreign ministers from numerous Western and Arab nations, including Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Lebanon, Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Qatar, Turkey, USA, the EU's foreign policy chief and the UN envoy for Syria. Jordan Foreign Ministry announced on Thursday that the summit will take place on Saturday in Amman. The Saturday summit will discuss developments in Syria in the perspective of various groups fighting against each other to take control of certain areas after Syria's President Bashar al-Assad fled the country by almost surrendering to the rebels supported by both the USA and Turkey. And first of the 75 Indian nationals evacuated from Syria reached Delhi today. And this is not the first evacuation of its nationals by India. It has earlier also successfully executed multiple evacuation operations for its citizens in crisis zones from Yemen to Ukraine. These missions have showcased India's diplomatic agility and dedication to its citizens' safety abroad.
India has demonstrated a strong commitment to the safety and well-being of its citizens abroad, particularly during times of geopolitical crises. Various operations in the past few years highlight the country's diplomatic agility and logistical capabilities in evacuating nationals from conflict zones. Let's look at some of the notable operations. 2011 Operation Homecoming. This operation evacuated 15,400 Indian nationals from Libya during its internal conflict. 2014 Kerala Nurses Rescue. The Indian government successfully brought back 46 nurses trapped in Iraq's Tikrit, ensuring their safe return from areas controlled by ISIS. 2015 Operation Rahat. Over 4,000 Indians and foreign nationals were evacuated from Yemen amid the civil war, facilitated by a call from Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the Saudi King. 2020 Operation Samudra Setu. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the Indian Navy rescued around 4,000 Indians stranded at sea, covering over 23,000 kilometers. 2020 to 2022, Operation Vande Bharat Mission. This was one of the largest civilian evacuation efforts, facilitating the return of nearly 2.97 crore Indians from abroad during the pandemic. 2021, Operation Devi Shakti. Following the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan, India rescued 669 individuals, including Indian nationals and members of the Afghan Hindu and Sikh minority community. 2022 Operation Ganga. Over 22,500 Indians were evacuated from Ukraine amid the conflict, with extensive airlift operations conducted. 2023 Operation Kaveri. In response to conflict in Sudan, this operation successfully evacuated over 3,000 Indians from various locations within the country.
These operations reflect India's proactive stance in ensuring the safety of its citizens in crisis situations, showcasing the effective coordination between various government agencies and diplomatic channels. With Doordarshan, Piyush, this is Taposh Bhattacharya for DD India from Delhi.
Well, voices to impeach South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol are going stronger ahead of a parliamentary vote over Yoon's martial law. As the opposition leader Lee Jae-myung said, the best way to restore order in the country is to impeach President Yoon. Yoon's decision to impose a military rule on December 3rd, even if rescinded within 6 hours, seems to have triggered a major crisis in South Korea. Lee called Yoon's remarks a declaration of war against the people and added that impeachment is the fastest and the most effective way to end the confusion. Yoon vowed to fight till the end, blaming the opposition party for paralyzing the government. He also claimed that a North Korean hack into the Election Commission made his party's crushing defeat in an April parliamentary election questionable. Yoon survived the first attempt to impeach him last Saturday when most of his ruling People Power Party boycotted the vote. And the United States announced a new $500 million package of military aid for Ukraine on Thursday as Washington races to bolster Kyiv before President-elect Donald Trump takes office. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the United States is providing another significant package of urgently needed weapons and equipment to Ukraine from U.S. military stockpiles. The package, worth about $500 million, included ammunition for high-mobility artillery rocket systems and high-speed anti-radiation missiles, among other assistance. The $5.6 billion in Presidential Drawdown Authority provides Biden with significant flexibility in directing additional military aid to Ukraine without needing congressional approval. While the White House reaffirmed that the U.S. would continue to provide additional packages for Ukraine right up to the end of Biden's administration.
That also today the President approved a new security assistance package for Ukraine that will provide them with additional air defense, artillery, drones, and armored vehicles. It's the 72nd such drawdown package announced by the United States, and as the President made clear, we're going to continue to provide additional packages right up to the end of this administration.
While NATO head Mark Rutte has warned the US-led transatlantic alliance on Thursday that it was not ready for the threats it would face from Russia in the coming years and called for a shift to a wartime mindset with much higher defense spending. Rutte said NATO members had spent more than 3% of GDP on defense during the Cold War, and future spending would have to be much higher than the current alliance target of 2%.
We are not ready for what is coming our way in 4 to 5 years. Danger is moving towards us at full speed. We can prevent the next big war on NATO territory and preserve our way of life. This requires us all to be faster and fiercer. It is time to shift to a wartime mindset and turbocharge our defense production and defense spending.
Well, U.S. President Joe Biden on Thursday released a long-awaited strategy for countering anti-Muslim and anti-Arab hate, up sharply since the start of the Israel-Gaza conflict, calling for urgent continued work to reduce discrimination and bias. The 64-page document comes weeks before the inauguration of former President Donald Trump, who imposed a travel ban on people from some majority Muslim countries during his first term that Biden rescinded on his first day in office. It mirrors a comprehensive strategy to fight anti-Semitism released by the White House in September 2023 and comes more than a year after the death of 6-year-old boy Wadia al-Fayyoum, stabbed by a man who targeted him and his mother because they were Palestinian American. In a foreword to the strategy, Biden called the attacks on the Chicago boy and his mother heinous acts and noted a spike in anti-Muslim and anti-Arab hate crimes, discrimination and bullying that he called wrong and unacceptable. Biden also wrote that policies that result in discrimination against entire communities are wrong and fail to keep Americans safe. The Council on American-Islamic Relations called the strategy too little, too late, while the Trump transition team had no immediate comment on the strategy or whether it would support it. And still to come, indeed India News Hour. Taiwan detects a Chinese military aircraft operating around the island. French president to name the new prime minister. And the Brazilian president is recovering from a second brain surgery.
We are going to be talking about India's pivotal comprehensive strategic partnership with a key country in the Indo-Pacific, Australia.
I think Australia has really benefited from India's shift towards multi-alignment.
And I think India and Australia have a really strong ability to try and keep trade free and democratic values flowing in the Indian Ocean.
I think that our Indigenous culture in Australia, which is super important to recognise, has a lot of ties to Indian culture and philosophy.
Some of my best friends in Australia are Indian, and they have shown me the best side of humanity, I think.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepakshi Quran, and moving on, shifting focus to Taiwan-China tensions now. Taiwan on Friday said that in the past 24 hours, it had detected 12 Chinese military aircraft operating around the island. According to the Defense Ministry, the Navy vessels, along with 34 Chinese aircraft, were spotted near Taiwan in the 24 hours. Beijing has been holding its biggest maritime drills in years, from near the southern islands of Japan to the South China Sea, Taiwan authorities said this week. Around 90 Chinese warships and Coast Guard vessels have been involved in the exercises that include stimulating attacks on foreign ships and practicing blockading sea routes. And meanwhile, China's Defense Ministry on Friday broke its silence about days of military activities around Taiwan, saying it was up to China to decide whether or not to hold drills, and the military would not be absent in fighting against the separatist forces.
It is the sacred duty of the People's Liberation Army to safeguard the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the state, to safeguard the fundamental interest of the Chinese people, and to safeguard the common interest of compatriots on both sides of Taiwan Strait. Just as water retains no constant shape, so in warfare there are no constant conditions. Whether or not to hold exercises and when to hold them is a matter for us to decide on our own according to our own needs and the situation of the struggle.
While China has accused the Philippines of provoking trouble in the South China Sea with U.S. support, escalating tensions between the two nations. The accusation made on Friday by Chinese Defense Ministry spokesperson Wu Quan comes after a week of heightened confrontations over disputed waters. Wu criticized the Philippines for stoking conflicts in the region, claiming that Manila, backed by Washington, is stirring unrest at multiple locations. He also emphasized that the Philippines' territorial claims, defined by international treaties, do not extend to China's Spratly Islands or Scarborough Shoal. This marks the latest in a series of clashes between Beijing and Manila over the South China Sea, increasing geopolitical tensions in the area. And in Bangladesh, a Chittagong court on Thursday recorded a petition moved by a senior Supreme Court lawyer for Chinmoy Krishnadas bail. However, the judge did not allow the early hearing. Chinmoy's lawyer, Rabindra Ghosh, expressed disappointment and said that he is considering moving the bail prayer to the High Court with the documents. On Wednesday, too, the court rejected the bail plea for the early bail hearing. The court dismissed the petition. Chinmoy Krishnadas, also a former priest of ISKCON, was arrested by police from Dhaka airport on November 25th on charges of sedition. On December 3rd, Chittagong court had fixed January 2nd for bail hearing as the prosecution submitted a time petition and there was no lawyer to represent Chinmoy. And moving on, outgoing U.S. President Joe Biden has issued presidential pardons to 39 Americans convicted of nonviolent crimes and commuted the sentences of nearly 1,500 other people. The White House released a pardon list of 39 people that said the individuals had committed either a nonviolent offensive or a nonviolent drug offense. In 1,499 commuted sentences includes individuals who were placed in home confinement during the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as those whose sentences Biden deemed to be too long due to outdated laws. The White House described it as the most act of presidential clemency issued in a single day. The moves come over a week after the president signed an unconditional pardon for his son, Hunter. Biden said the people he granted clemency would have received shorter sentences if charged under today's laws, policies and practices. The president added that he will take more steps in the weeks ahead and that his administration will continue reviewing clemency petitions. While the United States welcomed the accord reached by Somalia and Ethiopia to end regional tensions sparked by Addis Ababa's push for maritime access. The two countries had been at loggerheads since landlocked Ethiopia struck a deal in January with Somalia's breakaway region of Somaliland to lease a stretch of coastline for a port and military base. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken added Washington was looking forward to the technical negotiations that would spell out Ethiopia's sea access while respecting Somalia's territorial integrity. And French President Emmanuel Macron has postponed the nomination of a new Prime Minister until Friday morning. 8 days after French MPs ousted Michel Barnier as Prime Minister in a no-confidence vote, Macron cut short a visit to Poland on Thursday and had been expected to come up with a new name on his return. Macron said 2 days ago he wanted to name a new head of government within 48 hours. The new team is due to replace the one led by Michel Barnier, who resigned last week after far-right and leftist lawmakers voted to topple his government. Macron has vowed to remain in office until his second term ends in 2027, despite Barnier's downfall last week. And thousands of workers and supporters flooded the streets of Paris to protest against the growing number of redundancy plans and job losses affecting the French workforce. The demonstration, organized by prominent labor unions such as the General Confederation of Labour, Solidaires and the FSU, comes in response to a worsening economic situation marked by significant layoffs, restructuring and the dismantling of industrial sectors, marked by an upsurge in redundancy plans. The protesters are demanding urgent government action to protect jobs and support workers in industries facing decline. And pro-European Union protesters take to the streets for the 15th consecutive day in Tbilisi as Georgians rally against the newly elected Georgian government they consider illegitimate, protesting the government's decision to delay European Union membership talks amid a post-election crisis. The unrest in the region begins after Prime Minister's announcement on Thursday that Georgia would not seek accession talks with the EU until 2028 ignited a furious reaction from the opposition. Chaotic scenes unfolded for hours as police chased defiant protesters through the streets of central Tbilisi, beating them and making arrests. While Moldova's parliament voted early on Friday to impose a national state of emergency for 60 days, starting on December 16th, due to an unexpected cutoff of Russian gas supplies from the 1st of January. 56 members in the 101-seat chamber backed the measure in the vote just after midnight, following Prime Minister Doordarshan's call for approval. Declaring a state of emergency allows the government to respond rapidly and curb energy exports. Moldova receives Russian natural gas via Ukraine, which has said it will not extend its transit contract with Russian gas giant. And Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva is recovering positively from his latest surgery on Thursday. Lula underwent a second procedure on Thursday following his emergency surgery earlier this week to relieve a bleeding in his skull. The president had an intracranial drain removed without complications and remains in ICU, doctors informed, adding he was lucid and speaking normally as he received family visits. President Lula will remain in intensive care and is expected to be discharged from Sao Paulo's Syrio-Lebanese hospital early next week, when he might resume his presidential activities. And moving on, Venezuelan authorities said on Thursday that they have released 103 people this week who had been arrested amid anti-government protests following last July's contested presidential election. The detainees were accused of terrorism and taken to maximum security jails after a crackdown following the re-election of Maduro. The government announced that more than 300 people have been released from prison arrested in protest against the re-election of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Over 2,400 people were arrested during the unrest after the July 28th vote, which left at least 28 dead and nearly 200 injured. Maduro, who is to be sworn into office next month for a third 6-year term, requested a review of the arrest following his re-election. Protests have largely petered out since September, when opposition leader González Urrutia went into exile in Spain after a warrant was issued for his arrest. Well, the first Sherpas and central bank's deputies meeting in South Africa, Johannesburg, made significant progress in shaping the G20 summit agenda, setting the tone for its leadership tenure. Governor of the South African Revenue Reserve Bank outlined South Africa's agenda to advance shared global goals through key priorities. As a report by Nazanin Ismail of DD India.
Today from Johannesburg, the first Sherpas and central banks deputies meeting in South Africa made significant progress in shaping the G20 summit agenda, focusing on global priorities like economic recovery, financial stability, and sustainable development. Key outcomes included continued fiscal and monetary support to tackle inflation, supply chain disruptions, and employment challenges. Emphasis on strengthening financial institutions like the IMF and World Bank to support emerging markets, commitment to advancing the green transition and financing a low-carbon economy, especially for developing countries, support for a rules-based multilateral trading system and collaboration on global digital infrastructure, as well as focus on addressing inequality, poverty, gender equality, and access to essential services. The meeting set the stage for deeper discussions at the G20 summit, with a focus on both immediate recovery and long-term sustainability.
This is by far the most important track of the G20. We have the summit, which is where the big decisions are taken, but the real hard work is done by the finance track, because that is the history of the G20, to deal with global financial issues. South Africa believes it is time to focus on implementation, take stock of where we are vis-à-vis our objectives, and agree on how we accelerate progress towards the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. The primary objective for our presidency, through our theme of solidarity, equality, and sustainability, is to reinvigorate the spirit of multilateralism within the G20 finance track.
The meetings shall continue for the next year under the presidency of South Africa. So from the City of Gold, this is Nazneen for DD India, Johannesburg.
Well, the pottery craft of the Manong people in Vietnam's Dak Lak province has been officially recognized as National Intangible Cultural Heritage by the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism. The ethnic community has preserved their traditional pottery-making craft for centuries. Their village stands as the last remaining ancient pottery center in the Central Highlands region. Each piece they create is one of a kind, handcrafted from local clay. In recent years, local authorities have organized classes in traditional Manong pottery making, ensuring the craft's survival for future generations. And Elon Musk announced on social media platform X on Thursday that SpaceX's official headquarters will now be in Starbase, Texas. This follows Musk's July decision to relocate the headquarters of both SpaceX and X to Texas from California, citing California's new gender identity law as the last straw. While SpaceX's main office will shift to an existing site in Boca Chica and X will move to Austin, the full impact of California's jobs and facilities remain uncertain. Earlier this year, Musk also transferred SpaceX's incorporation from Delaware to Texas, mirroring his earlier decision with Tesla. Musk's own move to Texas in 2021 was motivated by the state's lack of income tax, further solidifying his shift away from California. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. A unique and historically significant item, tinselled garland worn by Mahatma Gandhi during the iconic Dandi March of 1930 remains open for bids after failing to meet its expected guide price at a UK auction this week. This garland, made of delicate folded paper wrappers inscribed in Gujarati, is believed to have been gifted to Gandhi as the Salt March passed near Ahmedabad, where Gandhi's personal physician, Dr. Balwant Rai N. Kanuga, lived. 3 dinosaur skeletons from the Jurassic period were sold at a London auction for a total of £8.4 million. All 3 were mounted and under display at Christie's London showrooms the day before the Jurassic icons Allosaurus and Stegosaurus auction. The skeletons were excavated in Wyoming in July. A Stegosaurus fossil found in Colorado fetched a record $44.6 million at a Sotheby's auction. And still to come in DD India News Hour. PM Modi discusses India-Middle East-Europe corridor with visiting Deputy PM of UAE in New Delhi. India's Ministry of Defence signs a contract with Hindustan Aeronautics Limited to procure 12 Su-30 MKI fighter jets. And cold wave grips North India while MAT department issues alert of heavy rainfall in southern states.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepakshi Kurana. Time now for a quick recap of the headlines. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken meets Tayyip Erdogan in Ankara as forces backed by U.S.-Turkey clash in Syria. A day ahead, a parliamentary vote over Yoon's martial law. Voices to impeach Yoon growing stronger. Opposition leader says impeaching Yoon best way to restore order. Aiming to boost infrastructure in North Indian state of Prayagraj, Prime Minister Modi to inaugurate developmental projects, also to review preparedness for the upcoming Mahakumbh Mela. Grateful Nation remembers the martyrs on the 23rd anniversary of terrorist attack on the Parliament. An Indian hockey team thrashes Thailand in Muscat, reaches semi-finals of Women's Junior Asia Cup. And now to some sports news. India remains concerned at the evolving situation in West Asia, and attacks against commercial vessels in and around the Red Sea threaten freedom of navigation and impact our trade, the government informed the Parliament on Thursday. Minister of State for External Affairs Kirti Vardhan Singh, in written response to a query, also said the government has raised the issue with the countries in the region and the Indian missions are closely monitoring the situation to mitigate its impact. The Minister, Kirti Vardhan Singh, was asked about the details of special measures that are being taken by the government to safeguard India's energy security. And India's Prime Minister Modi on Thursday welcomed Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of UAE, Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan. In a meeting, both the leaders emphasized strengthening India-UAE comprehensive strategic partnership, including in the areas of technology, energy and people-to-people ties. Furthermore, PM Modi laid a special emphasis on the implementation of the India-Middle East-Europe corridor to foster regional connectivity and prosperity. He also expressed his optimism about the future of the India-UAE comprehensive strategic partnership. Zayed Al Nahyan arrived in New Delhi to take part in the 4th Strategic Dialogue and the 15th India-UAE Joint Commission meeting. He also met India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. And Paulo Rangel, the Minister of State and Foreign Affairs of Portugal, arrived in Delhi on Thursday on his first official visit to India. India's Union Minister of Commerce and Industry Piyush Goyal met with Paulo Rangel on Thursday. Both the leaders discussed ways to enhance trade, investment and economic cooperation between the two countries. According to a release by the External Affairs Ministry, Rangel will hold a crucial meeting with External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar on Friday. Then on Saturday, he'll participate in some programs in Goa. And moving on, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit Prayagraj, a city in the northern state of Uttar Pradesh, to inspect the developmental works of Mahakumbh Mela 2025. Prime Minister will inaugurate and launch multiple developmental projects worth around 5,500 crore rupees at Prayagraj. He will inaugurate various projects for Mahakumbh 2025, including rail and road projects. In line with his commitment towards Swachh and Nirmal Ganga, Prime Minister will also inaugurate projects related to it. He'll also inaugurate various infrastructure projects related to drinking water and power. Prime Minister will also inaugurate major temple corridors to ensure ease of access to devotees and also boost spiritual tourism. Well, the daily proceedings of the winter session of Indian Parliament resume today. The lower house of the Parliament to hold discussions on the glorious journey of 75 years of the Indian Constitution. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is to initiate the debate. Other leaders also likely to speak. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to reply on the debate of 75 years of Constitution on December 14th. Well, India remembers the martyrs who sacrificed their lives while defending Parliament House from dastardly terror attack on this day in 2001. Indian political leaders pay tributes to the security personnel martyred during the Parliament attack in the Parliament House today. Well, December 13, 2001 marks the dark day when 5 terrorists guided by Pakistan claimed the lives of at least 9 people, including 6 security personnel, 2 Parliament Security Service personnel and a gardener, in an attack on the heart of democracy, the Indian Parliament, now known as Samvidhan Sadan. Well, Parliament, at the heart of the nation's democracy, was targeted in one of the most audacious terror attacks in Indian history on December 13, 2001. The incident, which claimed the lives of 9 security personnel and left several injured, is remembered as a pivotal moment in India's fight against terrorism.
On this day, 23 years ago, terrorists of the Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed attacked the Parliament complex in New Delhi. Around 11:40 a.m., 5 heavily armed terrorists disguised as official personnel drove into the Parliament premises in a white ambassador car. Their intention was to storm the building and cause large-scale destruction while the winter session of Parliament was in progress. However, their vehicle was intercepted by vigilant security personnel at the gate. A fierce gun battle ensued, lasting over 30 minutes. The terrorists were equipped with AK-47 rifles, grenades and explosives, making the confrontation extremely intense. The firing lasted for over 30 minutes, in which all 5 terrorists were killed, along with 8 security personnel, including Delhi police officers, personnel of the Central Reserve Police Force and a gardener. Their prompt action and sacrifice prevented what could have been a security disaster and deadly massacre inside the sanctum sanctorum of Indian democracy. The attack remains a stark reminder of the threats posed by terrorism and sacrifices of those who defend the nation. Every year on the anniversary of the attack, the President of India, the Prime Minister of India and other leaders pay tributes to those who made supreme sacrifice to defend the Parliament. The December 13 attack is commemorated annually to honour the martyrs who laid down their lives to protect India's democratic fabric. It stands as a testament to the resilience of the nation and its commitment to safeguarding its sovereignty. Anamika Pandey's report for DD India.
While President Draupadi Murmu paid tributes to the brave hearts who sacrificed their lives, sharing a post on X, she wrote, and I quote, "I pay my humble tribute to the brave hearts who sacrificed their lives defending our Parliament on this day in 2001. Their courage and selfless service continue to inspire us. The nation remains deeply grateful to them and their families. On this day, I reiterate India's unwavering resolve to combat terrorism. Our nation stands united against the forces of terror," unquote. And in a major push for the Atmanirbhar Bharat mission, the Ministry of Defence signed a contract with Hindustan Aeronautics Limited to procure 12 Su-30 MKI fighter jets. These aircraft will feature 62.6% domestic content, with key components to be manufactured by Indian defence industry. This marks another milestone in India's journey towards self-reliance, boosting the capabilities of Indian armed forces. And Delhi is witnessing its coldest morning of the season after temperatures dipped to 4.5 degrees Celsius on Thursday. According to the Weather Observatory, the minimum temperatures in North India, Northwest India and Central India will not experience any significant fluctuations over the next 4 to 5 days. Well, cold wave conditions are likely to persist until December 16th in parts of Punjab, Haryana, Chandigarh, Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh. Isolated parts of Rajasthan will also likely face cold wave conditions until December 16th. Well, the cold wave has also gripped the North Indian hill town of Shimla after the region received a fresh spell of snowfall. Also, the Indian Meteorological Department has predicted heavy rainfall across multiple southern states, including Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka. The Weather Department had predicted above normal rainfall in most parts of Peninsular India, West Central India and some areas of East Central and Northeast India. And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. India's Vaishno Devi Shrine in Jammu and Kashmir sees over 90 lakh devotees for third straight year. As per the authorities, over 95 lakh devotees had visited the shrine in 2023. The Chief Executive Officer of the Shrine Board that efforts are underway to provide more facilities for the devotees and the footfall in Katra will increase with the improvement in connectivity. 7 people, including a child, lost their lives in a fire at a private hospital in India's Chennai on Thursday. The incident took place on Thursday night at a city hospital on Trichy Road. Initial investigations by the police suggest that the fire may have been caused by an electrical short circuit. Bomb threats were emailed to 4 schools in Delhi early on Friday, leading to a multi-agency search of the premises. This follows a similar incident on December 9th when at least 44 schools received bomb threat emails, which police later deemed hoaxes. The fire department, police, bomb detection teams and dog squads have arrived at the schools to conduct checks. School authorities have informed parents not to send their children to school for classes today. And still to come on DD India News Now. Global sales of fully electric and plug-in hybrid vehicles continue to rise for a 7th consecutive month in November. Hardik Pandya ranks as India's most searched sportsperson and is ranked as 7th among the most searched sportsperson worldwide. And we'll show you how Australia's Sydney is sparkling in the Christmas season. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran and on to some business news now. Good news for the economy as India has achieved a remarkable milestone in its economic journey with gross foreign direct investment inflows reaching an impressive $1 trillion since April 2000. This landmark achievement was bolstered by a nearly 26% rise in FDI to $42.1 billion during the first half of the current fiscal year. Initiatives like Make in India, liberalized sectoral policies and the goods and services tax have enhanced investor confidence, while competitive labor costs and strategic incentives continue to attract multinational corporations. And the European Central Bank cut interest rates for the first time this year on Thursday and kept the door open to further easing ahead as inflation continues to cool. The latest round of cuts sees the deposit rate, the ECB's main rate, fall to 3%. The ECB's rate setting council has also reduced its main lending rate, of which Tacker mortgages are priced at the same pace to 3.15%. ECB President Christine Lagarde described as uncertainty in abundance. Lagarde said the policymakers settled unanimously on 25 basis points, taking the ECB's deposit rate to 3%. The central bank also removed an earlier reference in its guidance to keeping interest rates sufficiently restrictive to 3.0% from 3.25%. It was at a record 4% only in June, while with Thursday's decision, the ECB also cut the rate at which it lends to bank for 1 week to 3.15% and for 1 day to 3.40%. And in a positive turn for Japan's economy, big manufacturer sentiment has improved slightly, signaling good news for the central bank's interest rate plans. The Bank of Japan's latest quarterly Tankan survey shows business confidence among major companies rose to +14 in December, up from +13 3 months ago, the highest since March 2022. This uptick, exceeding market expectations, comes as the Bank of Japan prepares for its policy meeting next week, where it will consider raising interest rates from the current 0.25%. Additionally, big manufacturers plan to boost capital expenditure by 11.3% for the fiscal year ending in March, surpassing previous forecast and hinting at continued economic growth despite global uncertainties. While global sales of fully electric and plug-in hybrid vehicles rose for a 7th consecutive month in November, jumping 32% year-on-year for a 3rd consecutive record high. China continued to lead sales growth, accounting for almost 70% of total EV sales in the month, while registrations in Europe showed a marginal decline. While in the United States and Canada, EV sales were up by 16.8%, while Europe had sales of 0.28 million, down slightly year-on-year, but up 7.7% from October. In the rest of the world, sales were flat against November 2023. While you're watching DD India News, our time now for some sports news. Indian hockey team has progressed to semi-finals of Women's Junior Asia Cup after they thrashed Thailand 9-0 in the 4th pool match in Muscat. Deepika Kumari stole the show with an impressive 4 goals, while Kanika Sivach delivered a hat-trick to seal the win. India started the game strong, dominated the possession and continued with their scoring spree. Thailand players were unable to fend off attacks, resulting in the lopsided encounter. India will face Japan in the semi-finals on 14th of December. They've also sealed a spot in the next year's Junior World Cup to be held in Chile. And Indian cricketer Hardik Pandya is the most searched Indian sportsperson across the globe in 2024, as per the Google Year in Search. The India all-rounder is ranked 7th among the most searched sportsperson worldwide. He made vital contributions to India's win in the T20 World Cup against South Africa. While cricket dominated the search trends in India this year, no Indian sports team made it to the top 10 among the most searched teams in the world. In sports trends in India, the Indian Premier League, T20 World Cup and the Olympics occupy the top 3 slots. And Josh Hazlewood will return to Australia's playing 11 for the 3rd test against India in Brisbane after overcoming the side strain that ruled him out of the 2nd match. Captain Matt Cummins confirmed that Scott Boland will make way for Hazlewood despite the paceman's 5-wicket haul in the last match, which Australia won. Hazlewood's inclusion is the only change to the home side, but Australia have some headache. Steve Smith has also managed 19 runs in 3 visits to the crease. On the other hand, India are beset by worries over the form of captain Rohit Sharma and the fitness of striker bowler Jasprit Bumrah. Rohit Sharma managed just 9 runs as the tourists crashed to a 10-wicket defeat. Bumrah went down to the turf, grabbing at his thigh while bowling in the Adelaide Test. Bowling coach Mon Morkel said Bumrah had suffered cramp and was completely fine, but the paceman did not bowl at the training until a half hour on Thursday. Another defeat for India would mean their hopes of reaching the World Test Championship final is out of their hands. The 5-test series is levelled at 1-1. And for more, we have Narayan Singh joining us over there. Well, Narayan, with the 5-match series finally poised at 1-1 now, how exciting will be the next match and how important is it for India after losing the last pink ball match?
Well, definitely, it's going to be a very important match for India for different reasons. First, already the series is 1-1. And after India won the first test match at the Perth, they lost the second one at the Adelaide. That was a pink ball test, and we know that the combination of the pink ball and the Australian condition is always a difficult situation for any visiting team, and exactly that happened at the Adelaide. But also in the context of the World Test Championship final, to book a spot there, it will be an important match for India, but they need to reassemble themselves after the debacle in the previous test match at the Adelaide. But we know that the kind of Indian batting lineup is that they can do and they can bounce back here, but the form of the Rohit Sharma will the main concern for the Indian team, and his position, especially whether he will open and will play at the number 6, that will be a topic of discussion. And also the Ashwin, his performance in the Adelaide test was satisfactory, but India may also reintroduce the way Washington Sundar did a fantastic job last time when India visited in Australia, and this at this pitch only at the Gabba he plays an important role in the India's win. And talking about Rishabh Pant, and last time around in 2021 when India won at this ground, he played a fantastic knock of 88 runs in the 4th inning, and that will be also an inspiring thing, and Rishabh Pant will take inspiration from that innings also. So we are hoping that India has all the potential and all the talent to play and just to bounce back in this match at the Gabba.
All right, Narayan. Also, let's understand a Gabba pitch more with your help, as it is known for its pace and bounce and is expected to offer an exciting contest. Like Australia's Josh Hazlewood was also cleared of injury today, and this is one big change for Australia. What can we say about the Australian squad as well?
We know that the Gabba is a pitch, is a fortress for the Australian team. They remain unbeaten for 33 years at this Gabba pitch, and in 2021 India broke that winning streak when they defeated Australia at this venue, and that win was India's sole win at the Gabba. So we are hoping that they will replicate the performance they did in the 2021. And also we know that Gabba is a spicy pitch. It is known for its bounce and juicy pitches. So it will bounce, and the pace and the swing will be an offer, and it depends on how the Indian batsmen tackle that thing. And definitely I think after the pink ball test, they must have taken the lesson from that. We all know that batting against the pink ball is always a difficult, but here the situation will improve for the Indian batsmen, and the way they did in the last match, definitely they will not repeat that thing and will definitely just give a reply to the Australian bowlers here.
All right, thank you so much, Narayan, for that details. And moving on, India's Grandmaster D. Gukesh has scripted history by becoming the youngest ever chess champion. Gukesh defeated Inglaterra of China in the decisive Game 14 of the World Chess Championship in Singapore to clinch the title. With the game heading towards another draw, defending champions Ding made a blunder to hand the Indian Grandmaster victory. 18-year-old Gukesh has become the youngest world champion, beating the record previously held by Garry Kasparov. He's also the second world champion from India after Vishwanathan Anand, who won the title 4 times. And India's D. Gukesh etched his names in annals of chess history when he became the youngest champion. The 18th world champion at the age of 18 is 4 years younger than Garry Kasparov, who had set the record in 1985. The Indian Grandmaster had qualified for the championship after winning the candidates tournament earlier this year. The historic triumph marks Gukesh's outstanding journey. He outperformed Vishwanathan Anand as the top-ranked Indian chess player and clinched India's maiden chess Olympiad gold in 2023. He's the second Indian after the legendary Vishwanathan Anand to clinch the title. Anand bagged the crown 5 times. The sport, which originated in India, has found an exemplary torchbearer who would inspire young minds to dream big and pursue excellence. Well, Christmas light displays and decorations thrilled onlookers in Sydney as the festive season kicked off in the Australian harbour city. Sydney's largest Catholic cathedral, St Mary's, was illuminated with colourful projections portraying scenes from Charles Dickens' story, A Christmas Carol.
Despite having so little, they cherish love and fun.
Well, India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati has recently launched Waves, entering the field of OTT platform. Waves provides a complete infotainment ecosystem to digital media and OTT audiences. If you also want great content for free, then download Waves today. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lepakshi Kurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.